All welcome, dear friends, representing all local media and international media agencies. We are having, I'm Kumar Gunaratnam, General Secretary, Front Line Socialist Party, and we are having this press conference to explain the present current political situation and our stand on this current crisis situation. And we all know that due to the economic crisis, we have been facing a severe political crisis during the past few months. And the reason for the protest and the reason for the Aragalaya to oust the former president Gotabaya Rajapaksa under the slogan of Go Home Gota. So that is not only to oust Gotabaya Rajapaksa, but to abolish executive presidency as well, because since 1978 we have been experiencing the effects of the executive presidency, and there was a huge cry amongst the people, among the masses, to abolish executive presidency. A number of governments, the succeeded governments, they promised to abolish executive presidency, but they failed to do it. Finally, the people, they gathered and they used their people's power during the past few months, and finally, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the former president, had to accept the people's power, and he had to flee the country. So it means now he had a mandate back in 2019 November, but now the mandate he had back in 2019 November, now it's not there. No any more mandate for the former president, and also the government, Podujana Peramuna government, the People's Front government, they also don't have the mandate they received back in 2020. People vehemently rejected the mandate they had back in 2019 and 2020. Now, the people's struggle achieved some goals up to some extent. It doesn't mean that there is a long way to go. There is a long way to go, because still now we are having some sort of conspiracies in the political arena, especially due to the crisis situation. On the 9th of May, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed as the Prime Minister by the former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. So actually, he didn't have a mandate. He got only one parliamentary seat in the parliament. But due to the crisis, and he made use of the crisis, and former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa appointed Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe as the Prime Minister. But now he is using the Constitution, and he is trying to use the Constitution, and he is trying to become the President of the country again. So that is, we strongly believe that Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe has no politically he doesn't have any sort of power, or on the other hand, morally, ethically, he doesn't have the right to have this prime ministership or any other portfolio in the government. So that is very clear, because last few months, since May, after the May 9th incidents, since May 9, the people gathered in Golface and all over the country in different cities. They shouted to not only against Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the former president, but also Ranil Wickremesinghe, go home. But he is still trying to use this situation, and he is trying to use this political situation to stay in power. And we request the Podujana Peramuna parliamentarians, because Now you should understand the political situation here and the political message gave by the majority of the people throughout the last few months. Because not only, as I earlier said, as I earlier mentioned, not only Gotabaya Rajapaksa, but the Podujana Peramuna government, they don't have the mandate they received back in 2020. So therefore, if you want to change the political situation, the political system in Lanka, what should you do is you have to self-criticize yourself. You have to self-criticize yourself and you have to step back. Don't try to make further conspiracies with Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe or any other person. We know still Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, the former Prime Minister, and the former Finance Minister, Mr. Basil Rajapaksa, they are still playing their game and they are trying to buy some of the parliamentarians in the parliament. They are trying to use money to buy them, and they are trying to keep their power by using Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. So we request the parliamentarians representing Podujana Peramuna People's Front. We request them to self-criticize yourself, and you have a chance to correct all the mistakes you have done in the past. Therefore, you have to allow the other political parties to elect a Prime Minister and a President and act according to the action plan presented by the protesters representing Golf-Face. Because on the 12th of this month, the protesters representing all the representatives representing the Golf-Face protest campaign, they presented an action plan for a minimum 1 year time. So within 6 months there are some conditions, and within 1 year they have to complete the other conditions. And whoever comes to power, we are not going to, as a party, we have been engaging in this protest since the beginning, and not only the beginning, but since the Corona period also, we had been engaging in different protests against the Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government and his policies. So, as a party who has been engaging in this protest throughout the last few months, we urge everybody representing the parliament to act according to the action plan presented by the protesters, which was presented to the all political parties on the 12th. So that is the demand we make here, because we have some other long-term programs. As a leftist party, we have a long-term program to establish socialism in Lanka. But by the way, we accept this action plan presented by the protesters representing Golf-Face. Therefore, we vehemently urge the representatives represent the parliament, all the parties, all the party leaders, to act according to the plan, the action plan presented by the protesters. And at the moment, we know that there is a kind of discussion that about the numbers in the parliament, because the majority representing Podujana Peramuna and the opposition at the moment, they don't have enough numbers. But as I earlier said, now we have to accept the reality here, because this parliament was established back in 2020, and before that, 2019 November, Gotabaya Rajapaksa was elected as the president. But now, because of the failure of the government, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa was defeated, and at the same time, as I earlier mentioned, the government doesn't have the mandate. Therefore, the People's Front Podujana Peramuna parliamentarians, they don't have the right to govern the country. They don't have the right to govern the country. They don't have the political right. They don't have the moral right or the ethical right to govern the country because their mandate was defeated by the people's power. Therefore, there is a political reality we have to accept, that is people's power. Because people physically, after usually the Lankan people, they vote and they do not engage in politics. But what we have seen in the last few months, they engaged in politics, they have been engaging in politics and they showed their power. It means the people's power is the reality at the moment, so we have to accept this reality. That's why we are saying the Podujana Peramuna parliamentarians, they don't have the right, they don't have the political right, they don't have the ethical or moral right to govern the country. So they have to step back, they have to allow other parties to elect a president and a prime minister, and they have to support the action plan presented by the goal-faced protesters. And now there is a discussion, because when we explain about the people's power and we explain about the people's mandate, so some of the politicians, they misinterpreted our stand. Because what we said was, now this constitution is not enough. This constitution doesn't reflect the people's real needs. For an example, after establishing the Podujana Peramuna government back in 2020, they introduced the 20th Amendment. By the 20th Amendment, that is totally undemocratic and it is kind of a constitutional dictatorship. They gave the power to Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa. And they wanted Mr. Basil Rajapaksa to engage in the parliament, and they made some other constitution amendments. So it has become the law of the country. It has become, but totally undemocratic, unethical, and it is unethical and undemocratic. Therefore, that's why I'm saying, that's why we have raised that now there must be some other laws to be established. Because the president, he became the president back in 2019 November, but after 2 years' time, the majority of the people wanted him to be ousted, wanted him to go home. But there wasn't any provisions in the constitution to send him off. He is the one who has to decide for a referendum. So that's why we are saying, once we, after winning this step of the struggle, we need to, because the action plan says we need to we need to introduce a new people's constitution, a people's constitution. That's why I'm saying the people's struggle, the constitution, the new people's constitution should reflect the people's real needs. If the people wants to have a referendum, so it should be there. The right to recall. If any parliamentarian, if they don't act according to the people's will, so people should have the right to recall them, judicially review. These are the features we suggest and the protesters suggest to include the new people's constitution. So that's why we say the Aragalaya, the protest, the fight, the struggle, the content of the struggle should represent in a new constitution. So it has become the new law, because the present constitution doesn't allow you to establish democracy in Lanka. Now, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe is using this constitution. He is using this some terms in this constitution to keep his power. So the corrupted politicians representing Podujana Peramuna, they want him to be the president in the country by using this constitution. That's why I'm saying we can't accept this constitution. We have to deny this constitution. European Union and United Nations Human Rights Commission, they kept saying to abolish the PTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act, that is also in this constitution. So that's why we say we have to change this constitution, and we have to come up with a new constitution, new people's constitution. So sometimes it cannot be done by using this constitution, by using the provisions of this constitution. That's why we say we have to go for a referendum, and we have to introduce this new people's constitution in a radical manner. We have been experiencing this this sort of political experience in the world, around the globe, and in Lanka as well. In 1972, we prepared the constitution outside the parliament, and finally it was accepted by the parliament. So we have had this experience. Therefore, we have to form a new constitution outside the parliament, and we believe that as the protesters' action plan, it is included that to establish a national council to work with the new government. We are not going to appoint the president, or we are not going to appoint a prime minister in the new government, but whoever comes to power, whoever comes as the president or the prime minister or the cabinet, they have to act according to the action plan. So that is our policy. So we are not going to name a person, but we rather prefer a president who is not representing a political party. We would like to have a president who is not representing a party, who is not having a party political ambitions. So there are a number of personalities, there are a number of alternatives, because if a party wants, they can name a person outside the parliament by using the national list, and he can become president, and he can fulfill the requirement of the action plan within 1 year, and he can after the elections he can go off. So that's but we are not going to name, but we rather prefer a neutral president who is not representing a political party. And also we request the progressive political parties, leftist political parties, and people's movements all around the world to examine what has been happening in Lanka for the last few months, and how the people organize themselves, and how they defeated the undemocratic leader Gotabaya Rajapaksa. So it is going to be an experience we can share. We have heard that in India there was a huge protest to support the Lankan cause, and we believe that there are a number of discussions going on at the moment around the world about the Lankan experience. So we are not, we as a political party, leftist political party, as Front Line Socialist Party, we are not for armed struggle. We are not for armed struggle. That's why I earlier explained, when we talk about the constitution, when we talk about the limitation of this present constitution, when we talk about a new people's constitution, some of the political sectors, they misinterpret this as that they are trying to use the power against the present law or present constitution, but that's wrong. We are not going for armed struggle or anything, but we strongly believe that this constitution is not, there are a number of limitations and should be changed, and we need to establish we have to form a new people's constitution. And finally, we as an active party in this process throughout during the last few months, we should emphasize this point, because we are even though we have some other long-term plans, at the moment we fight for this action plan. We need to be implemented this action plan whoever comes to power, we are forcing them. We are asking them, at the same time we are forcing them to implement this action plan as soon as possible, because this is the people's will at the moment. This is the people's request at the moment. The people, they have been fighting for the last few months to establish democracy. They need some political changes and some economic changes. Yes, in terms of economy, there must be a number of reliefs. So we are forcing the government, whoever comes to power in the next few weeks, to act according to the action plan and implement the action plan early as possible. And I just want to emphasize another thing, that if anyone expect the stability, or they want to reduce the anarchical situation here in Lanka, so they need to look into the people's struggle and what are the demands of the people's struggle. Earlier, as I mentioned, whoever comes to power, the new government has to compromise with the people's struggle, and they have to act according to the action plan presented by the struggle, because that is how we can expect stability. Because we as a party, Front Line Socialist Party, expect the stability in the country, and we expect to reduce the anarchical situation in the country. Because Gotabaya Rajapaksa, he is the person who is responsible, and the Podujana Peramuna government is who is responsible for this situation, this unstable situation and the anarchical situation here in Lanka. Therefore, if you want anyone, the High Commissions and the international players who are interested in the Lankan politics, they must think about the stability. If they want the stability, if they think about stability, if they want to deal with the stability, so it means that a new government should act with the people's struggle and with people, because the majority of the people's will is there. So that is the way we can establish stability and reduce anarchical situation in Lanka.